Welcome to the show which gives you crypto confidence. We want to help you navigate the sometimes confusing world of blockchain and cryptocurrencies and make smart, informed choices as a consumer. Brought to you by the marketing communications team at Blocksparks. So it's brilliant to have with me today a colleague of mine from Blocksparks, a chance to introduce you to my colleague Diana and for her to talk to us a little bit about her journey learning about cryptocurrency and blockchain, because I rather dragged her into this earlier this year. Just a little bit of background, I've worked with Diana in other settings years ago, so I knew she was the person that I wanted to work with because of her mastery of social media marketing. And when I was putting the Blocksparks team together, I wanted to find people who really knew what they were doing in terms of their professional expertise, because I knew that this blockchain and crypto stuff could be learned. I didn't want to do it the other way around and have to teach somebody how to be a marketer who already knew the crypto stuff. That would be much, much harder. So I reached out to Diana because I knew that she was the person I wanted to work with. And then I dragged her headlong into this brave new world of crypto. So, sorry about that, Diana. It was probably a little bit abrupt when we first got going, wasn't it?
It was a little bit. Hi, Maya. Hello, everyone else. It was sort of, you learn things quite easily, don't you? I think that was your question to me.
Yeah, well,
and I said,
I knew that you did, and I knew that we'd worked on other projects, so it wasn't going to be a problem. But how did we first get going? I think I just basically threw lots of links at you, didn't I?
Yeah, I mean, you recommended Jameson Lopp, his website with all those hundreds of links on there for resources that he has, which is where I started. I started sort of getting email newsletters with info, sort of weekly newsletters that I was reading every week and learning from there.
There's a lot out there, isn't there?
There really is a lot out there, and it's kind of where to start. The Jameson Lopp stuff is really good. It's quite basic. It's quite, as you're starting out, this is the place to go, I think.
I think we must find that page actually and put it in the show notes, because I remember that page. It's just sort of a one pager with about 200 links on it or something.
Yeah, I've got it bookmarked, so I'll pass it over.
Brilliant. Okay, because I know it starts with explaining blockchain to a 5-year-old or something, and then it gets a little bit more complicated from there going onwards. So yeah, that's the perfect starting place, I suppose. I mean, for me, I needed to find somebody I could work with on the kind of client work I was doing who could actually not just understand this stuff, but boil it down into social media lengths, which means capturing the right image. And actually, I can waffle on for thousands of words in an article and really dig into a subject, but I can't write 240 characters about it. I think that's your particular superpower, Diana. How did you find your learning about something completely new fitting into that?
It's along the same themes of any subject, really, where you can just condense it all down into something that's manageable, understandable, using not words that aren't very big or words that don't have too many syllables, just to fit them into that space that you're allowed to on Twitter mainly. And just so that if I understand it from that tweet, then other people will understand it from that tweet. I have the benefit of learning as I go along, or have been learning as I go along. So there I can share my learning curve with other people as well, knowing that they will understand it because I understand it.
I think what's been so interesting for me about the journey we've been on as a team within Blocksparks is just how much knowledge there is and how much we can all learn from each other. And I love the way that we share things with each other when we come across them. And here's a great new article, or here's a podcast I really enjoyed about this that was something that helped me understand it. I mean, I think probably your learning, just like mine, was quite unstructured at first because there's so much out there. We were just kind of grabbing after things, really, weren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just sort of floundering. That looks interesting. Oh, I need to know about that. Let's read that one and listen to that podcast and watch that video. And it's kind of a bit all over the place, really. But once you sort of settle in and know the basics of it, and then you can sort of move forward from there and go deeper into each sort of aspect of blockchain and crypto. It gets more focused and it gets a bit easier, really.
It's hard to find the structure at first, I think, isn't it? Because it's like a parallel world that's really fully developed. But if you've drifted along through the world which crypto isn't in for long enough, you don't really know what it looks like or how to get a grip on it. I know that one thing for me that was really useful earlier this year was coming across the online course offered by the University of Nicosia as a MOOC, a massive open online course. Yeah. And very excitingly, you and a couple of other colleagues at Blocksparks have embarked upon this very same training yourself from this semester. So how's that going? Back to school?
It's really good. I mean, it took me a while to get started. There are live videos that come out each Friday, and there's a PDF of information that comes along with that, and then there's a quiz that you can take to sort of check how much of it you've learnt. And it took me a couple of weeks to sort of really get into it. I was a bit intimidated by it because it's all very sort of complicated language, but once you start watching the videos, reading the PDFs, doing the quiz, and you can retake the quiz as well, which is really good, because if you sort of fail miserably the first time, you can retake it.
Did, I'm sure. I don't believe
well, surprisingly, I surprised myself that I did okay. Just having one go at it, I did okay, and then you can only go up from there, can't you?
Absolutely.
But it's a complicated. I wouldn't advise it for complete beginners in blockchain or crypto to sort of embark on that course. It is a little bit more involved than a beginner sort of stage, but I'm finding it sort of at my intermediate stage, if you like. I'm finding it really, really interesting to sort of learn about all the really in-depth stuff.
Yes, I really liked the presenters, Polomitas, and of course wonderful Andreas Antonopoulos, really deliver it well and tell a good story, because whilst they both clearly have great technological knowledge, actually being able to put that in context and make it part of a narrative and make it interesting to listen to an hour's video about, apart from anything else, that's quite a gift, I think. That's quite a knack. So.
Absolutely, it's quite rare in this industry as well. People tend to be one thing or the other, don't they? But
well, thank goodness for that, or we wouldn't have a job at Blocksparks.
Absolutely,
telling these stories for people. So it's good that there's this gap between the brilliant ideas and the bringing it out into the world. But I think for me, one of the interesting things about the course was the structure of it. And just seeing, okay, so these are the things that you actually need to acquire for a rounded knowledge, and it sort of plugged different holes. Some bits I knew fairly well, other bits. Have you got to the unit yet about actually looking at the blockchain and finding transactions and having to go?
Yeah.
I think that was the first time I remember thinking, wow, I'm way out of my comfort zone here.
Yeah, it's slightly daunting.
Yeah.
But it's just another thing to learn. What the thing is I mean, I'm not a genius IQ like Sorma. I'm not super smart, but I do have the ability to sort of absorb information quite easily. I know not everyone has. I'm very grateful that I have that. But I find it's just another thing to learn, and it is a complicated and technical thing to learn. I really, really enjoy it, and it makes you feel. It gives you a really good sense of satisfaction afterwards to sort of know, yes, I can do this.
I think for me, because I'd come at it from a journalistic point of view of writing about social impact and the way blockchain was going to change our world and things like that. And I've been kind of happy to think, oh, well, the technical people, they know about nodes and transaction IDs and things like that. And I kind of don't need to really know about that, and I can leave that to the pointy head people who built it all, and fantastic, I'll just tell stories about it. But actually, once it was explained, okay, this is what you need to do to verify a transaction, and you can actually go and see it, it really brought it to life for me that it is this completely transparent blockchain, and anybody can do that, and anybody can run a node, and anybody can inspect any transaction. And I think it's quite powerful for me. Did you find that as well?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And however baffled people are by this whole subject at the moment, this is the future. This is the way everything is going to be at some point. And people don't necessarily need to know, see Maya's previous podcast episodes, don't necessarily need to know everything there is to know about the blockchain, just as you don't know everything there is to know about the internet, or you probably know very little about the internet. But we do need to have an understanding of what it is, what the basics of it are, because it will be, it will be all over. It will be everything in the future.
Yeah.
At some point, hopefully.
I think you're right. And I know that certainly the people who came at it from either a technical background or a kind of political libertarian background are very, very strong on the whole kind of, you have to know about this, if you have to control your private keys, you have to ideally run a full Bitcoin node to say that you're part of this thing. I agree with that from a kind of political standpoint, but I also think that the future lies in far more accessible, user-friendly applications and the kind of thing that, people were not going to start getting involved in the internet when you had to run command lines to get online and things like that through your horrible dial-up modem in 1988 or whatever. Or it's never going to have got the volumes of people who use Facebook or something today. So, no. I think that we are very much at that start of the learning curve, but that's not where the future is going to be. And eventually people are going to be able to get into this far more easily. Would you agree that that's the way it's going to go?
Absolutely, yeah. At the moment, people just see it as being cryptocurrency, which they don't tend to, the mainstream audience don't tend to understand much about cryptocurrency. And they think the blockchain is just all to do with that, but it's so many other things. It's so much more. It's, it's the future of business and industry and shipping and farming, and it's just charity. It's just everything, and it's as that becomes more and more mainstream, then it will become more easily understandable. And with people like you out there telling wonderful stories and analogies about other things that people can understand better to explain how this whole thing works, then it's going to be okay. We'll get there.
We will, won't we? And people like you helping to get that out into the mainstream world as well by tweeting about it and coming up with the right combination of words and images to tell the story. And I mean, I think it's been a really exciting journey for us as a team, just learning about this stuff, even though it might be a bit intimidating, the idea of going and doing a university accredited course at, well, we're not going to talk about how old we are, but it's been a little while since we were in a classroom environment, maybe.
Very long time.
Going back to any kind of formal study was slightly intimidating just as an idea, I think. But I don't know. I mean, I've been writing about technology for a long time now, but I know that this is the first time that I felt really excited about learning something completely new.
Yeah, absolutely, me too. And it is completely out of my comfort zone. I mean, when you first spoke to me about it, sort of the beginning of this year, I knew what Bitcoin was. I didn't really understand anything deeper than knowing that it was a digital virtual currency. I didn't know there were I didn't even know there were other types of currency. That was a very, very steep learning curve to learn about that. And then that was like, wow, and I learned about it, and I knew there was so much more out there to learn, and I sort of grabbed it with both hands and ran with it. And that was super exciting to learn about all this new stuff. And people just shouldn't be intimidated about learning about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you do it at your own pace. You can do it, there was a rush for us because that's where we were going sort of work-wise and business-wise and client-wise. But for anybody else to sort of learn about it, do it at your own pace and just read interesting stories about it.
Yeah, and find your way through the noise. I mean, I think that's the hardest thing, is that there's a lot of bad information out there, a lot of scams, a lot of people trying to pump coins that they're behind, and people who not necessarily giving deliberately false information, but certainly very biased information, or information from a very specific point of interest. So I think that's why it was great to come across this course that was very, very structured and very deliberate. It's why we look out for resources that we can share with our audiences, which are from sources that we at least trust to be educational, have some credibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, yeah. And the What We're Reading section of our blog as well is where we put all the articles that we're all reading and found interesting, educational, and hopefully other people will read them too and find them the same way.
Yes, and we put them out on our Facebook page, on Twitter, and in our Telegram group. particularly the Telegram group we now have for this podcast, we're starting to share the stuff that we're reading, because that just came out of our own learning journey at BlockSparks. We were sharing stuff with each other. We're a completely virtual team, so we operate on Slack, and we have a whole channel in there dedicated for our own learning. And it was turning into, hey, I found this and this is great. And we just got really fascinated by it, didn't we? And thought that some of that could do with going out to a wider audience.
Yeah, why shouldn't everybody else be reading this stuff as well? Because it is really interesting.
Yeah. So our fabulous webmaster, Babs, webmistress, developed a channel for us to curate that as part of our own blog, so that we could share things that we were reading as well as things we were writing, and, you know, amplify other important voices in this space and people who are doing interesting work. And I've got something interesting to say about it as well. I mean, where else do you go to find information, Diana? Are there any particular influencers you follow, or any particular sources?
Well, I have lots of lists on Twitter, so I'll put people in different categories and follow those lists. Twitter is my thing. I'll go on about Twitter all day, but I won't. Yeah, I do a lot of. So I put people in different lists on Twitter, and I sort of follow the news feed for that list and find things from there. I also have RSS feeds, a lot of which you've passed over to me from credible sources of information, news and information about the space, and I use those every single day to find articles to read, information and news, and what's happening in the industry. And I've found quite a lot of new ones myself as well. Google Alerts as well. I use Google Alerts a lot to with certain keywords to find information about topics that I'm interested in, or topics that clients might find useful.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's great to have Google Alerts to see what's going on for the people we're working with directly, but also the issues that might affect them. See, I knew you'd be the perfect person to come along and talk about this, Diana, because to do the work that you do for BlockSparks, you have to just be on top of scanning so much stuff that's going on, so much that's coming in every day. There are people working away all over the world at different projects, creating new technologies which are going to disrupt everything. And we have to also learn about what the industries that our clients are in as well, a little bit, as the blockchain technology that's coming along to disrupt them. So we might have to spend a month immersing ourselves in shipping and logistics or something in order to be able to know who the influencers are there and be able to create great content about how that's all going to get disrupted. So no, it's a really exciting time. I'm glad that we're part of it. This new podcast is hopefully part of that process of sharing what we're learning with the world. And I'm really lucky to be working with people like Diana in order to get the word out accessibly and in little bite-sized chunks that we can all absorb.
Oh, and vice versa. The BlockSparks team is awesome.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great place to wrap it up. Thanks very much, Diana.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So the next letter in the crypto alphabet is B, and there are a very large number of terms that start with that letter in this space. We had a little chat in our growing Telegram community, and the consensus was most definitely that B stands for Bitcoin. And of course, that's absolutely correct. Bitcoin is indeed where it all began. In fact, almost a decade ago, the first Bitcoin block was mined by its creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, and sent to another person, being the very first time that value was transferred online in a transparent, trackable way. I wonder if Satoshi, he, she, or they knew what they had unleashed on the world and how it would create an entire new technology and industry. A decade on, Bitcoin is now one of thousands of different cryptos, still way out in front in terms of volume. Its present market cap is over $100 billion US, and it's one of the biggest coins out there in terms of institutional investment that is starting to enter the space. For some people, Bitcoin is the one and only cryptocurrency, the only one there will ever be. For other people, Bitcoin has particular drawbacks that they have built other blockchains and other coins to address. Certainly, because of its early development, Bitcoin has some limitations in terms of its block size and transaction speed, But people are building solutions on top of Bitcoin as secondary layers to address that, as well as creating entirely new coins. So who knows what the future will look like? Will Bitcoin become the global reserve currency that it has promised to be, the true digital gold? Will it take its place alongside hundreds or thousands of other digital currencies, or a mixture of digital and sovereign currencies? No one knows. But the only certainty is that Bitcoin is where it all began. Bitcoin is the daddy, and definitely B is for Bitcoin. You just listened to a brand new episode of the Crypto Confidence Podcast. Thank you so much for your time and attention. If you enjoy what you're hearing, please do take the time to like, subscribe and review us wherever you go to get your podcasts. And you can connect with us at CryptoConfPod on Twitter and lots of other ways. Check out the show notes for how to get in touch. Meanwhile, please remember that nothing in this podcast nor our related social media, or indeed anything else published by Blocksparks OU at any location, is intended as financial, investment or trading advice. Everything we share represents our personal opinions for your information, education and entertainment only. You should not make any decisions based on anything we share with you, not without undertaking independent due diligence in consultation with appropriate professional advisors. Crypto Confidence is all about being smart and informed and making the right choices for you. See you in 2 weeks.